take an act of God to get me across that bridge.
An act of God or an act of...
In June of 2023, Pixar released their newest movie at the time, Elemental, and things weren't exactly going too well. Notoriously, Elemental struggled pretty badly at the box office when it originally released due to a number of factors. Interest in this film was at an all-time low for Pixar standards, and reactions towards its premise weren't very positive to begin with many believing Pixar was finally running out of ideas for their original movies. Then you take into consideration the other factors, like how Pixar was forced to go exclusively with streaming for a while, which hurt their box office performance, as well as some of their recent movies being fairly divisive among audiences, and it's suddenly no shock why Elemental was doing so poorly. You know, also considering the fact the film's marketing was practically non-existent, this was a dark time for Pixar, and in their moment of desperation, they clung to a dim hope. To save Elemental's box office and their future in theaters, they needed an act of Clod.
An act of God or an act of...
Clod.
Okay, so that was a lot to process at once, I apologize. To answer many questions that may be surfacing in your mind, such as how, why, and subscribe, just gonna answer that last one now and say you definitely should, we need to go back and elaborate on some things to really understand how and why Pixar dedicated an entire marketing campaign and bet this movie's entire future on this random side character who has a combined 90 seconds of total screen time, and why it actually may have worked in the movie's favor and contributed to the increasing positive word of mouth that helped save Elemental from being a box office bomb. So, as previously stated, Elemental was not exactly the most hyped up movie ever upon its reveal. From its announcement, the reveal of the concept art, and the trailers, there were a good few things about this movie that really rubbed people the wrong way. Since the start of the 2020s, Pixar has been struggling a lot financially, with their popularity and goodwill going down with the profits. Going into the 2020s, they were already starting to become divisive of audiences, as even though films like Incredibles 2 and Toy Story 4 were adored by critics and made a ton of money, they generated a much wider range of reactions from fans. However, once 2020 came around, well, I mean, you know how it went. The pandemic completely threw the industry for a loop, and the effects it had on Pixar can still be felt to this day. Not only did their newest film at the time, Onward, completely flop at the box office, but it was also released on Disney Plus not even a month later, so people didn't have to risk getting COVID just to go see a 6 out of 10 movie. And for the foreseeable future, Pixar would release their upcoming films exclusively on Disney Plus and only opening in theaters for special screenings once lockdown was over, which, surprise surprise, no one actually went to. At the time, animation was one of the few mediums that could actually continue production through the pandemic without too much hassle, as animators could just work from home. And while it was great that animated projects could continue to be made from home, and it certainly benefited the consumer to be able to watch the newest Disney or Pixar film on a streaming service they pay for monthly, and not having to go through the horrors of modern day ticket pricing, Pixar didn't like doing this one bit. They greatly preferred having their films be shown in theaters, which, while an arguably unreasonable thing to request at the time, was definitely understandable given Disney was releasing plenty of their films in theaters and on streaming simultaneously. I mean shit, Bob's Burgers got a theatrical run and not Pixar. You can understand the frustration with the inconsistency. And what was made worse was the perception of the brand as a result of keeping Pixar exclusive to Disney Plus for about 3 years. Once you normalize releasing big budget theatrical movies on streaming day one, it's kinda hard to ask people to come back into theaters to watch new releases considering how expensive and inconvenient it is compared to just picking something to watch on Disney Plus from the comfort of your own home. This was kinda foreshadowed when Turning Red's special screenings turned up diddly squat, but the impact was really felt when Lightyear, Pixar's first exclusive theatrical release in years, ended up being a box office bomb, losing the studio around $106 million. Yes, this is still a video about the annoying kid from Elemental, just let me cook. And while all of this was going on, there was a growing resentment towards Pixar from general audiences due to a perceived decline in their quality. This was being felt since before the pandemic with Incredibles 2 and Toy Story 4, but pretty much every single Pixar film since 2020, with the exception of Soul and Inside Out 2, was far more divisive despite critics mostly being warm on them. Many people, including critics who liked their movies during this time, noted that it felt as if Pixar was playing it safe. And then you had films like Lightyear that no one really seemed to like. Now, I don't personally hate anything Pixar have made over the past 7 years or so. I liked Incredibles 2, I think Toy Story 4 is solid, excluding the ending. Onward was mid, Soul was great, Luca was fine, Turning Red was fine. It's not as if Pixar was making back-to-back dog shit, but it definitely felt like they were losing their touch a bit. And now we're at Elemental, and all of the complaints people have been levying at Pixar over the past 4 to 5 years come crashing down all at once. Many were quick to write the film off as looking generic and uninspired, and after how universally disliked Lightyear ended up being, people were not nice about their critiques here. Interestingly in the film wasn't very high, and the marketing... Elemental's marketing was terrible. I asked plenty of my friends around the time what they thought about the new Pixar movie coming out, and most of them had no fucking idea the film even existed. Two of which are pretty big film buffs too, so I was pretty shocked they hadn't heard about it either, and apparently neither did most people. Whether it was people making a conscious effort to just not see the movie and just waiting for it to release on streaming, or people just not knowing it existed. Elemental debuted with the second lowest opening weekend in Pixar's history, and falling way below expectations. Hell, when you consider that the #1 lowest opening weekend for Pixar was the original Toy Story back in 1995, it makes Elemental's performance even worse because they had to earn their reputation back then. Also, because adjusting for inflation, Toy Story did way better than Elemental, and that's really fucking funny. So naturally, Pixar started panicking. This obviously wasn't going to be the film that sunk the company overall, but after being consistently screwed since the turn of the decade, they needed a movie of theirs to be a big hit. But how are they going to get more eyes than Elemental? Well, ignoring how they wouldn't be having this problem in the first place if this film was actually given a marketing budget, Pixar ultimately considered that the best approach they could take was social media. Wow, you guys have gotten great at holding your applause without being told. They needed a true banger of a viral marketing campaign, and what they went with can only be described as an act of Clod. Yeah, I said it again.
Yo, 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 Ember!
Yo, Clod, can't talk, in a hurry. And don't let my dad catch you out here again.
This is Clod, one of the side characters in Elemental. Now, I know what you're thinking, and that's incredibly rude, please stop that. What was so special about Clod that Pixar decided, yes, this is who we're gonna put at the forefront of our advertising for this movie? You'd think of how much they were milking this character, they'd be either relatively important or at least somewhat memorable, right? Clod has 90 seconds of screen time, 10 seconds of which are during the credits. The answer to the previous question is that there is nothing special about Clod, nothing at all. And that's the point. Let me explain. The marketing with Clod was incredibly interesting. No, that's not the right word. It was desperate. Scratch all of that actually. It was weird. It was embarrassing. It felt incredibly out of touch to many people. Pixar cobbled together this false image of Clod like he was the center of meme culture, the internet's favorite character of the month, so to speak. He got his own character poster, he was given his own official Twitter hashtag and icon along with an alternative one. It was pretty strange, but the main attractions were two very important videos that Pixar uploaded to Twitter and TikTok. One of them being a Clod-centered fan cam edit highlighting Clod's impeccable rizz.
Or an act of Clod.
Now, this was hilarious, but it was very weird, and not trying to pearl clutch or anything because it was just a bit of marketing made without much thought, but some people questioned why they were making an epic rizz fancam edit of a character that's canonically a child, and I'm assuming Pixar must have taken their social media intern out back and shot them because they deleted that shit so goddamn fast. Sorry Pixar, but the internet... The internet is forever. Oh, yes, it's forever. Although, on a semi-serious note, I don't know what they were expecting when they added a reverb effect to a child moaning. You know, I don't support corporations having too much power, but I'm just saying pulling a gun on the intern here seems fairly reasonable. The second one of these videos, and the one you're most likely familiar with, was Pixar creating a fake audience reaction to Clod's first appearance in the movie.
Yo, yo, yo! And I smell good.
Alright, I gotta be careful of clips here to avoid being sued. You know how many big name movies have all these legally dubious audience reactions uploaded to social media that show the crowd freaking the fuck out when something insane happens? They're a lot of fun. I even recorded some for the Minecraft movie.
Chicken tracking!
This was Pixar's attempt at a fake one where the audience freaks out over Clod. This one definitely caught the most attention and was easily the most successful out of the two, but it was only really successful because everyone universally lampooned it for a week straight. Many wondered what Pixar was even thinking, pointing out how it's insanely obvious this wasn't recorded at a real theater and the reactions were edited in, and seeing just how desperate of an attempt at marketing this was. It was labeled super out of touch and embarrassing. Now, I agree that it is embarrassing and desperate and very poorly done, but I don't think it's out of touch at all, and honestly, I think Pixar knew exactly what they were doing and what reactions they were gonna get. It's a fact that the internet is incredibly irony poisoned right now, seeking ironic enjoyment out of something by making memes about it and generally making fun of it while pretending it's good is just something that happens all the time on here. Most recently, it happened with the Minecraft movie, which by all accounts is a terribly written film, but the internet refused to hate it, and instead sought out ironic enjoyment in all of the moments where Jack Black screams the name of something Minecraft related to the camera. As a result, most had a pretty fun time despite the movie itself not being stellar. And probably most infamously was Morbius. Jesus, the collective gaslighting from people on the internet ironically enjoying the film and calling it good genuinely convinced Sony to re-release it in theaters expecting it to be a hit, only for it to bomb at the box office again. Now, both of these movies have a very different approach. Morbius was a very sincerely awful movie that wasn't self-aware in the slightest and never capitalized on people ironically enjoying it. The Minecraft movie is a very self-aware movie that knows its story is total nonsense and specifically tailors itself to be enjoyed ironically, and it worked to great success. I truly believe that Pixar wanted to craft themselves a semi-ironic marketing campaign by propping up this one random side character and getting a bunch of free publicity from people mocking them and thinking this was some sort of out-of-touch marketing attempt. And if I'm being honest here, I think it worked somewhat. This was the most anyone on the internet had talked about Elemental ever. Even if it wasn't in the most positive light, the film now had eyes on it. And not to suggest that Clod's insane rizz is solely responsible for this, but weeks after this all happened, Elemental bounced back with a vengeance at the box office. A ton of people across social media were suddenly beginning to talk about the film and spreading word of mouth. And the crazy thing is that it was almost all positive. Most people who went to see Elemental thought it was a solid Pixar movie and exceeded expectations. A lot of people were talking positively about Elemental, and over the next few weeks, the movie became a sleeper hit, making almost $500 million at the box office. Now, granted, according to a few reports, the film had to make $600 million in order to be considered profitable, but this is one of the most insane comebacks I've seen for an animated movie, especially because the film had to compete with Across the Spider-Verse, which really shows how crazy this all is. We live in an age where a Sony animated movie is now fierce competition for Disney and Pixar and has the potential to completely wipe them off the map. The fact Elemental almost turned a profit after its disastrous opening weekend and the weeks that followed is kinda insane, right? Now, I do genuinely want to believe that some people just happened to see Elemental on a whim and suddenly gathered a bunch of people on the internet to discuss how good it is, but I think the more realistic outcome here was that all of the brand shitposting involving Clod actually helped the movie in the long run. I can see many people going to see this movie based on the cringe videos they've been seeing from the official accounts and coming out of it being pleasantly surprised. I think there's a genuine market for companies to tap into here, intentionally being cringe just to get irony-poisoned internet users to go see the movie and be surprised. We've already seen this with the Minecraft movie this year. Now granted, I don't like this. After too many attempts at this sort of strategy, it is going to get old really fast and just be seen as the desperate attention-grabbing attempt it really is. But I'd be lying if I said it wasn't working right now, but I don't expect Pixar to go back to doing this anytime soon. The pandemic, Disney Plus debacle, and box office flops and scares have seemingly broken them, as they're now focusing almost exclusively on sequels to their established IP, especially in the wake of Inside Out 2 becoming the highest grossing animated movie of all time. But I think this was an interesting chapter in Pixar's history to look back on, and as much as people may resent him, it's cool that all it takes to save a dying movie these days is an act of Clod. Anyway, that's the end of the video. Play Yakuza or something.
And you choke it up.